So here we are in the last section in chapter 8, and this one is called Law of Cosines. For the law of cosines, this is what we would use if we have either side angle side or side 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 in terms of information on our triangle. So we'll talk about that in a second, but looking at these formulas, this should look pretty familiar to you in terms of if I cover up this part here that's being subtracted from what looks like the Pythagorean theorem, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And remember that the Pythagorean theorem is only used on right triangles, and this part right here is called the correction factor. And this is the correction factor for not being a right triangle. For not being a right triangle. All right, so if it were a right triangle, we wouldn't have to do any of this correction factor, but because our angles in our triangle are not going to include a right angle, we need to add in this little bit of correction here. But if you look at this, we're labeling our sides and angles just like we have been doing with big letters for angles and small letters for the sides opposite them. So if I wanted to find the length of side C, I'm doing a squared plus b squared, and then I'm going to subtract twice a times b times the cosine of the side of the angle of the side that we're finding. Okay, so everything up to this point is a squared and b squared, a and b. If I'm finding c, then I'm going to add on the cosine of angle c. I'm going to multiply that by 2ab. All right, now if I'm finding side A or side B, I'm going to square the other two sides, and then I'm going to subtract 2 times each of the lengths of the sides minus cosine of the angle opposite of the side we're finding. All right, so giving it a shot down here, we are solving the triangle. So remember, I'm finding the angles and I'm finding the sides. And I have the information. A is 2, B is 3. And the angle between them is 60 degrees. So here's a side, and this is the side or the angle between them. So this is a side angle side triangle. All right, so I want to find the length of side C. All right, so using the law of cosines, I'm going to have c squared equals a squared. A is 2, so that's going to be 4, plus b squared is 9, minus 2 times 3 times cosine of angle C, which is 60 degrees. All right, so this is all calculator work now. So I'm going to move this over here, add 4 plus 9, and then subtract 2 times 2 is 4 times 3 is 12 times cosine 60. And I get 7. So I have c squared equals 7, so c is the square root of 7. So the length of side C is square root of 7. Now, I have an angle and a side opposite that angle, Now I could use the law of sines that we did in the previous section to find either angle A or B. So now I'll do law of sines. Okay, so remember with law of sines, we have an sine of an angle over the length of the side opposite. So let's do sine of 60 over the square root of 7. And now let's do sine of B over 3. Okay, so remember these ratios are equal. So if I want to find sine of B, I'm going to multiply 3 times sine 60, and that will give sine of B by itself. And then I want to do the inverse sine to undo that. So B is going to be the inverse sine of 3 times sine 60 over the square root of 7. So if I do inverse sine, and then I just do 3 times, oops, I don't need an inverse, sine 60 divided by the square root of 7. And that gives me 79.10 or 79.11. So angle B is 79.11. Okay, so 79.11. Now I could set up law of sines ratio again, or I could just for angle A, that's going to be 180, the sum of all the angles, minus 60, and then minus 79.11. And when I subtract them, angle A is going to equal 40.89. So angle A is 40.89, and now I have all of the sides and angles of the triangle. On the next page, we have another triangle. This time I know a side, and a side. So this is a side, side, side triangle. And I need to find all 3 angles. So I don't know any of the angles, but I do know all of the sides. So angle A, the side opposite is 4, side B is 3, and side C is 6. Now we're going to use the law of cosines to find the angles, and I suggest using or finding the biggest angle first. Okay, so let's find angle C first. All right, so if I'm going to find angle C, I'm going to start with C squared, which is 36, equals A squared, which is 16, plus B squared, which is 9, minus 2 times A, which is 4 times 3, times cosine of angle C. All right, so I know this is 25, so I'm going to subtract 25 on both sides. So I have 11 equals negative 2 times 4 is 8 times 3 is 24 times cosine C. So I need to undo and divide by negative 24 and then do the inverse cosine. So C is going to be the inverse cosine of 11 divided by negative 24. So on my calculator, I will do inverse cosine of 11 divided by negative 24, and I get 117.28. All right, so there is my first angle. Now I'm going to I can find B using law of sines or law of cosines. How about I think law of sines is a little bit easier. So I'm going to do, sine of B over 3 equals sine of 117.28 over its length across from that is 6. So I want to find B, so I'm going to multiply 3 up here and then do the inverse sine of all of that. So B is going to equal inverse sine of sine 3 times sine 117.28 divided by 6. So B is going to equal inverse sine of 3 times sine 117.28 and then divide by 6. Close my parentheses and I get 26.38. So B is 26.38 and that's degrees. And now to find angle A. Here we're just going to subtract all of our angles from 180. So A is 180 minus 117.28 minus 26.38. And when I subtract all of those, angle A is 36.34 degrees. All right, so now we've just solved the triangle, found all of the lengths of all the sides. And in example 3, we have a picture that helps us with this, and it says that a motorized sailboat leaves Naples bound for Key West 150 miles away. So we start here, we're going to Key West, which is 150 miles away. Maintain a constant speed of 15 miles per hour, but encountering a heavy crosswinds and strong currents, the boat or the crew finds after 4 hours that the sailboat is off course by 20 degrees. So this angle right here is 20 degrees. So I'm going to draw this a little bit bigger just so that we can see it without all this. So this is 20. This is 150. And they went 60 miles. And they went at an angle of 20 degrees off course. So how far away is the boat from Key West at this time? So here we are right now, and Key West is down here, so I need to find this side. Now looking at the information I have side, I have an angle between two sides. So I'm going to use the law of cosines to find the length of this side. So if this is x, I'm going to have x squared equals, I'm going to have this side squared, so 60 squared plus 150 squared plus 2 times the length of each side times cosine the angle between them. So cosine of 20 degrees. And sorry, this is a minus right here. All right, so this is all calculator work here. So I'm gonna do 60 squared plus 150 squared. And then minus 2 times 60 times 150 times cosine 20. Okay, all of that on the calculator, and I get 9185. So x squared is 9185.53, and then I need to do the square root of that to find out the length of side x. So to do that, I'm going to do the square root of the previous answer, which is 95.84. So this is 95.84 miles. Okay, so this is part A right here. So this side right here, 95.84. Part B says, through what angle should the sailboat turn to correct its course? Now, that means going forward, they need to turn the boat at a certain angle. So to find this angle, we don't have the information to find this angle right now, but I could find this angle first. All right, so this time I would have a side, an angle, and a side. So I can use law of cosines again to find this angle, and this angle is a supplement of that. Okay, so the two angles have to add up to 180. So if I can find this one, I can find the other one. All right, so let's do part B. And in part B, I'll do a little darker here. I'm going to have side, angle, side. All right, so I want to find this angle. So the side opposite is going to be squared. So 150 squared. Let's find another pen. Equals the two sides between the angle. So I'm going to square 60 and add 95.84. I'm going to square that. Minus 2 times 60 times 95.84 times cosine of this angle. Let's call this angle B. All right, so I want to find this angle. So I'm going to go through and solve for B. So I'm going to start with 150. I'm going to do this in parts. So I'm going to add these together and subtract it from 150 squared, and then I have to divide by this part right here before I can do the inverse cosine. All right, so first I have 150 squared. Sorry, I'm going to squeeze that over here. And then I'm going to subtract 60 squared, and then I'm going to subtract 95.84 squared, and I get 9714.7. And that equals 2 times 60, that's negative 120 times 95.84 cosine B. All right, so I need to divide by this value and then do the inverse cosine. All right, so on my calculator, I'm going to say that B is inverse cosine. And I have 97.14, oops, 9714.7 divided by 120 times 95.84. So I'm going to divide by a quantity, negative 120 times 95.84. Okay, so, and then this quantity will do inverse cosine. So I get 147.6. Okay, so this angle right here is 147.6. So this angle is going to be the supplement. So 180 minus B is, I know this is negative, but it's 32.36 degrees, or 32.4 degrees. So this is the angle right here that they're going to have to turn. Turn back in 32.4 degrees. And in part C, it wants to know how much time has been added to the trip because of this going off course. Now, if we think about it, we have distance equals rate times time. Now, originally, they were going to go 150 miles, and it says 15 miles per hour. So 150 is the distance, and then the rate was 15 times t. So the time is 10 hours. Now, going off course, the distance is now 60 plus 95.84, which is our new distance, which is 155.84. And this is distance equals rate times time. My rate is still 15 times time, so I need to divide by 15. So 155.84 divided by 15. This time is 10 hours and, what was that? 10 hours and 0.3893. So this is the part that's extra. So this part of an hour is how much they went out of their way. So 0.3893 times 60 would give us about 23.4 minutes. And that's how much time was added onto the trip by going these two legs right here opposed to straight 150 miles. And that's it.